Okay, so a very good morning to one and all. Uh, this is Sheikh.John Sydulu, Assistant Professor of Department of CSE in Chilapati Institute of Engineering and Technology. So today in this session we are going to discussing about the introduction to the data mining and data warehousing. Okay, so before we are going to entering into the data mining, so first we need to know why should we go for the data mining and what is the data mining and on what kinds of data we can do the mining. Okay, and what are the functionalities of the data mining and what is the classification of the data mining systems and top 10 most popular data mining algorithms and what are the major issues that are presented within your data mining and the overview of this particular course. Okay, so before we are going to entering into this data warehousing introduction, so first I am going to give you, so what is the definition of a data engineer? Okay, what is the definition of a data engineering? So coming to the data engineering, so coming to the definition of the data engineering, so the data engineering is nothing but it is it deals about or it can includes what some companies might call the data infrastructure or the data architecture. So that is called the data engineering. So the data engineer gathers and collects the data and stores it, and he can does the batch processing or the real-time processing on it and serves it via an API to a data scientist who can easily query it. Because so the major functionality of the data engineer is that, so the data engineer is going to gathers and collects the data, and they are going to store the data in a particular place, and they can do some kind or some sort of the batch processing upon that, and they are doing some kind of the real processing or real time processing on it, and it can be served via some application programming interface. Okay, so it can serve via a application programming interface, so that can be used by the a data scientist who can easily query it and who can easily work with it. Okay, so now let me say what is the functionality of the data engineer within the society and all. Okay, so a data engineer is a worker and whose primary job and the responsibilities are involving and preparing the data for the analytical and operational uses. Okay, so the main functionality of the data engineer is that, so the data engineer is going to provide a primary job responsibility that can involves the preparing of the data for both the analytical and the operational users. Okay, so that is why simply we can call the data engineers are nothing but they are the designers and they are the builders and they are the managers of the information or the big data infrastructure. So that is why we can call those data engineers or those data engineers are plays very vital role, okay, in order to collecting the data or in order to gathering the data and storing the data, and they are going to do some processing upon it, and they will give that data to the data scientist because of easy working with that. Okay, so the data science by giving that data, that batch process data or that real time processing data via an application programming interface to the data scientist, what the data scientist will do, so automatically the data scientist can easily query it and they can easily work with the data that can be provided by the particular data engineer. So that is why we can call the data engineers are nothing but they are the designers, builders and the managers of the information or big data infrastructure. Okay, so let me explain one thing first. Okay, so that is, so before we are going to entering into this data mining, so as you know very well about this subject that is called the data warehousing, right? So before we are going to entering into the data mining. So the data mining in the sense, so we are going to mine something, right? So we are going to mine something from particular databases and all. Okay, that is nothing but the process of extracting or the process of accessing something, right? So the process of extracting or the process of mine something, right? So that is nothing but the data mining over there. Okay, so here when we think about this data mining, Okay, so generally, in general, so we can know that a data mining is nothing but it is an extracting or mining knowledge from the large amounts of data. So that is why we can call the data mining. So sometimes we can call the data mining is knowledge mining from the data, and it is also called the knowledge extraction, and that is also called the data or the pattern analysis, or we can call this data mining as data archaeology, and or also we can call this as the data dredging, or we can also call it as the knowledge discovery from the data. That is nothing but KDD. Okay, so these are the similar or the slightly different meanings of the data mining here. Okay, so before we are going to entering into why should we go for the data mining, so first we need to know what is a data warehouse first. So so the data warehouse, so the data warehousing is nothing but so generally everyone will be knows very well about what is the data and what is the information, right? So coming to the data and information, so the data is nothing but it is the raw facts and the figures. When it comes to the information, so if you want to arrange that raw facts and figures in a proper format, then the data can becomes the information. For example, if we take so in order to create a building, okay, so in order to create a building, and we have to give that building name as for example, let me say A block. Okay, A block for that building. So A block is nothing but that is the information. Information is nothing but, so there we can have the A block, or there we can have B block. So likewise we have to give the information. So in order to create, or in order to construct that building, so what are the raw materials that we need? What are the raw materials that we need? So you need soil, you need water, you need gravel, and you need cement, you need iron. So likewise, so we need so much of raw materials. So those materials are nothing but the data, and we can arrange those materials in the proper format. Then it will becomes a building, and we can name it, or we can name it that building as A block. That is nothing but here the A block is nothing but it is the information, and the materials, the raw materials that are used for constructing that building are nothing but they are data. Okay, so that is the difference, the basic difference between the data and the information. So the data is nothing but it is raw facts and the figures, and when it comes to the information, so if you want to arrange that data in a proper format, then we can call that is the information. Okay, so that is the data and the information. So let me explain what is the data warehouse first. Okay, what is the data warehouse first? So generally a data warehouse is nothing but it is a repository of information, and that can be collected from the multiple sources, and they can be stored under a unified schema, and that usually resides at a single site here. Okay, so a data warehouse is a repository of information that is collected from the multiple sources, and they can be stored under a unified schema, and that usually resides at a single site. So that is the general thing, that is the generally what we can call what is a data warehouse. Okay, so when we talk, or when we think about the exact definition of that data warehousing, okay, exact definition of that data warehousing, so that should be different. Okay, so here in generally data warehouse is nothing but it is a repository of information, so that is going to be collected from the multiple sources and stored under a unified schema, and that usually resides at a single site. Okay, for example, if we take a company, okay, so a company can have its own site, right? So and let me assume the company will have the 4 different branches. One branch is located at Andhra Pradesh, and one branch is located at the Chennai, and another branch is located at the Bengaluru, and another branch is located at the Karnataka. Okay, Andhra Pradesh, Chennai, Bangalore, and Karnataka. So what I want to say here is, so that company wants to assess day-to-day sales, right? So or monthly sales. Okay, so if you want to know about, if you want to do some kind of processing upon the transaction that can be made by the different customers of that company from the different locations, what they will do, so they can going to collect, okay, they are going to collect the information from Andhra Pradesh, information related to the transaction of the customers from Chennai and from Karnataka and from Bangalore, and they are going to combine, they are going to collect the multiple sources data, and they are going to store that data under a unified schema, and that is going to usually resides within a single set. So that is nothing but the data warehouse. Okay, or else or else a data warehouse. Okay, so so coming to the general definition of a data warehouse is nothing but it is a collection of information that is the subject oriented, integrated, time variant and the non volatile. Okay, all right.